also a fucking racist.
Oh, I mean, everyone from the time spoke Dutch. The hilarity is that before I decided to become even more useless to society and be an anthropologist, I was useless in the form of a classical musician. And
Is that from the
there was,
sound overall
in
or just
the
from my
school
computer?
where I studied, the musical university I
Try and
studied,
figure it out.
there was a department of
It's coming from
theory
here.
and theatre,
Yeah.
and they had a
Okay, do
musical
you have an
copy
email
of the
address?
Orwell movies. And that was
Yes,
before I had
yes I do.
touched any of this.
Okay.
And I always remember this book as
Should I
tiny.
just
I thought,
write
it's
Yeah,
an
just write it
interesting
down.
little book.
Oh, haircut
Little did I
really
know that
suits you.
5 years later I would be giving lectures on it.
Try it down here.
I grew myself.
I see you sound check with great music.
It's not my music.
And it's not mine. But
Oh,
Are we?
whoever that was. Let's play.
the sound sounds good. You sound well.
Thank you. Good thing I don't sound sick.
Do you want to mostly
Yeah, just yeah.
So it works, just keep it on you and
Yeah, I think that would be
Now
best,
it's a
you know.
good game. Okay, so
did you get it? It's just a Teams link. It should work. You say
And we still have like 5
web
minutes.
version.
yep.
Join the meeting and share the screen.
Well, it's probably in. I sent it to me from your mail. Yeah, maybe it's spam. No.
It's not
Should
I was
be
just getting a lot of messages.
I sent it from that one. Oh, there it is. And then just continue this browser.
We're just doing tech.
Yeah.
and just share your screen. Are you in a meeting?
No, this one is.
Always open.
I'm just renting out my computer.
Oh wow, there's a handsome man on screen.
That's me.
And turn off the computer sound as well. That should be fine.
This on
Just can mute here.
and then
Yeah, I'm being difficult because I want to show you a video that is as wonderful
someone
as
will look.
horrifying.
Oh, yeah, so you need to give me access, I
Straight
suppose.
from an Icelandic film. I will explain.
Oh, and then I turn off the video.
Yeah.
Or should I keep the camera on? What?
It is wonderful. And
Yeah,
horrible
it's
at the
turned
same time, isn't it? It is. It gives insight into a certain.
Something.
Yeah, into a certain.
And just
structure.
share
I
the
just-
screen. Del.
Yes.
And
Scan.
yeah.
Still, it does make any sort of Nerdism look better than
My
racism used to.
All yours, Uno.
Compared to that, sure.
I look forward to hear how it all goes. I'm gonna do villain stuff.
Yeah, just give me a rundown on that.
I will.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If it closes, do I have the?
Just a moment. It's just like I need to remember.
Pop it to my Discord.
Yeah, I'm just gonna write you the code.
Lovely.
Does that. I'm just gonna log off quick. No, I'm not. I think you're good to go.
Thank you. I do owe you a beer for this.
Nah.
Yes,
But I will appreciate it.
on, Mike. Nothing happened. Ah! You found one. As I said, my name is Helga. I'm a ludic anthropologist, and I turned a professional nerd. And, well, it's been over a decade since I knew about Knutpunkt. I finished my master's thesis in ludology, and I've never been here. I've been all alone in Iceland. But then I met this wonderful man, and now I'm here. And, I mean, what is there to know about Larpers in Iceland? How do we LARP? We LARP with great difficulty. Everything works against us. The weather works against us. Timing works against us. Sunlight works against us. But I'm going to take you back to the 90s, which is what we learned about LARP first in Iceland. So, a long time ago, in Húsavík in the mid-90s, you might know Húsavík. It's the place from that Fire Saga film, you know, the Eurovision film. It is not a place you want to go. It's really pretty on a postcard. Don't go there. In the mid-90s, they played Cold War Assassin, which was a very interesting game, but I don't know much about. They might have made it themselves. And there was a little bit of a start of a fantasy buffer thing. These are individuals who are now entering their 50s, and they talk about having done this, but only to select few. And it was like, you're not going to tell them it was me. I'm like, no, it's fine. You're going to meet one of them. I'm going to show you. Reykjavik in the late 90s, of course, we had the obligatory Vampire the Masquerade LARP that was dubiously set up with dubious rules. You know if you know. It was played in open spaces. It did not work particularly well, and they do not want to talk about it much. In Akureyri in the mid-2000s, that was in my gymnasium or youth college. There was a group of 5 that went out and LARPed in a very, very beautiful park nearby. And I know who they are, and they know that I know who they are, and they do not want to be mentioned, and they do not want to talk about it. And then we have the Öskjuhlíð myth. Öskjuhlíð is a wooded area in the center of Reykjavik, where there was always this whisper. There are people LARPing there. I heard people go there, but no one ever knew anyone. And I think it is just this rumor that never really went anywhere. So that is what we did originally. And the reasons for this, like why isn't LARPing happening in Iceland where it is growing in the rest of Scandinavia, it is because of the smallness of everything. We are nerdy enough. This was a sentence that I was told the first time I touched dice. I was playing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and I had heard about this mythical thing of costumes and fun. And I went like, why don't we do that? And I got like, we're not doing that. We're weird enough. We have fought for our space here to play this game within the walls of the school. We're not going further, and if you want to do that, you cannot play with us. This was very simple. Then, of course, we have small-town problems. I grew up in a town of 15,000. If you're a for life, you're not escaping that, and we all know that people thought a bit differently 20 years ago. On top of that, information access. We did not have a thriving scene, or mad people writing about it, or locations. Everything is working against you, so it's difficult to simply go into it. And then the moral panic came late. There was this thing in Iceland. We did not have the satanic panic. Icelanders are not Christian enough for that. What we had, however, was an interesting theory from the government called drug-free Iceland in year 2000. This did not work. However, I was assaulted in school by various individuals telling me that drugs are bad. Okay. Twice a week. Every week throughout the school year. And what we got in turn was this particular moral panic was moved over to role-playing games in general. And a very good example of that was my husband, who is the generation above me, who could not really talk about him doing role-playing games. At the age of 20, he goes to class in his youth college, and he hears on a Monday morning that a good friend of his has passed away. He yielded to his depression. And the teacher stands there and goes like, this is what happens when people are playing things like Dungeons and Dragons. We know this isn't true, but this was thrown around, and this is 99, 2000, when this sentence is said. So we are fighting this particular thing. I was fighting people going like, do you understand the difference between reality and game? And I'm like, it's dice. We drink an awful lot of Pepsi Max. It's just how things work. This is from Huye. It's a chatbot. In 2002, someone asks, and it's always the same, like, yeah, I do it. Jokes all around. How lame can you be? So people just went silent. And I didn't ask until I started talking to people abroad. And then, of course, this happened. If there is any sound to it, or it runs. Hello. Is it loading? It should work. Nothing is happening. Oh well, I'll just tell you. This is Astropia. It is a film that came out in 2007, and it is about Hildur, who is an it girl, and she is dating a guy that smuggles an awful lot of drugs. She has everything. Money, wealth, looks. But then the police comes and he is put to jail and she needs to get a job. And she gets a job at Astropia, a nerd store. And throughout this, she learns how to play D&D. And there are intense sequences of like them in as their fantasy characters. It's all filmed in Öskjuhlíð, mind you. And it really altered the idea of this imaginary game. Larp is mentioned in that film in a very negative aspect. It is painted up very awkwardly, very, bad costumes created from your mother's sheets. And Nerddom is, as they said, it is a nasty love letter in an interesting way. It really altered how people look at Nerddom because they were both interested from the incredible sequences and they were upset. And nothing happens. What is wrong with this thing? We'll just move on to the next slide. Yeah, the Astropia effect. It is a vicious mockery, and it is a love letter at the same time. It reminded us who were already in Nerddom that we shouldn't be too loud about it. But others were also kind of interested. But the true heroes of this story of mine are those who were too young to understand the underlying current of mockery going on in this film. And it was mockery. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the characters who work in Astropia are actual people. They're all based on people who were working in a nerd store in Reykjavik at that point. And you can recognize them if you knew the scene well enough. It is a funny film, but it also is kind of nasty if you know what's going on. But as I said, it changed a very interesting thing. It changed how very young people saw LARPing. And of course in Astropia they talk about the mythological LARPers in Öskjuhlíð, where there had never been a LARP as far as anyone knows. But, well, here's a brief interlude. I met a real LARPer when I was playing World of Warcraft for the Horde. And I got curious because I had theories. And I was going insane. I was working on my master's project in anthropology, and I was doing digital anthropology. And there is only so much time you can stay inside and look at people online. I just wanted to get out. I wanted to go to a faraway fantasy land, so I went to Sweden. Because there are elves and cute people and Pippi and things like that. And I ended up pregnant. I had never LARPed before. I was like this pregnant, showed up in a dress, and I went to a LARP called Yggdrasil. Some of you might know it. It's a youth LARP, and it was a beautiful experience. And that started my journey. Long story short, went to Sweden. I finished my thesis, did not get a mental breakdown. I presented my findings. My proudest moment, I have a word in the Icelandic dictionary. I am the person who coined the word kvikspunni, which is known now in game theory as the Icelandic word for live-action role-playing games. In the actual dictionary, thank you. And then people started saying, aren't there more LARPers? And I'm like, I'm trying to. And then someone is, I think there are kids in the Öskjuhlíð. And I'm like, are you telling me there is a freaking LARP in Öskjuhlíð? So I had just given a speech at the University of Iceland about sensory theory according to Sarah Pink in relations to LARP. And someone goes like, I think my kid goes to Öskjuhlíð. And I'm there on high heels wearing a dress because I just did a presentation and went like, I'm going. I went to Öskjuhlíð that day and guess what I found? I found a bunch of LARPers. Because, well, this is where the real story begins. There's a young man and he wanted to LARP. He knew nothing about it. He had seen Astropia when he was a kid and he thought the sequences were great. He had seen stuff online from Conquest and he thought it was great. That was all he knew. So he went online and ordered some weapons and watched some YouTube videos about how to make things. And then he put an event on Facebook. And a lot of people showed up. A lot of people. So this is Baron and this is Otter and Hilmar beating him up. And and they are wonderful, wonderful people. So Baron called them together and went like, let's LARP. I don't know what it is or how it works, but I just want to do it. And Otter showed up. And according to Baron, Otter showed up in full regalia that he had collected over the years of not knowing what LARPing was, but he knew he wanted to do it. According to Otter, he showed up and Baron was there in full regalia and so cool. And they're like, both of them are blaming the other for starting LARP in Iceland. But long story short, they decided to LARP. And things just really started rolling. Those two young men, absolutely upstanding individuals, are the reason there is Larp in Iceland as we know it. And they just rolled with it. And that is the beauty of Icelandic Larp. Welcome to Fungi. That was their world. It was self-sustained. It was very small. We're talking 15 individuals. They knew nothing. There was very little outside influence. They had seen videos from Conquest, and what they had experienced, they found some stuff online from some American Larp that was very complicated, and they sort of weren't sure if they should use it or not. They just learned by doing. They learned by asking the people who were coming, what would we like to do? Are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? How does this work? There were no safety rules. The only rule was just take care of each other. And it's so interesting that this individual enjoyment of the group very fast took hold as the standing and the basic of everything. These are individuals in their late teens and early 20s. They knew not words like calibration. They had not thought about safety mechanisms or meta techniques. They just went for it. And the interesting thing, when you talk to these young people, they just go they seem to gravitate towards the Nordic style naturally. And my theory, without having anything to back it up at this moment, is that the Nordic way of LARPing, this caretaking of the other, is more natural to us than the systematic keeping things on paper. And that's how they were, in a way, working. The game just automatically went there. Problems are solved on the fly. If things happen, someone got killed, and they stopped and went okay, what went wrong? Why are people sad? Didn't you talk? Is someone hurt? How can we make this better for everyone? And this beautiful little scene started to take form. And it took form fast. Costumes grew fast. The form of it grew fast. And then all of a sudden there's an anthropologist going can I keep you all as my personal little laboratory? And they said yes. And I was very happy with that. But as I said, this is ludus gratia ludus. They're just playing for playing. There's no theory. There's nothing but enjoyment. And that is the beauty of the original Icelandic Larp. Then this happened. It's new. It's interesting. It's visually intriguing. And everyone wanted a slice. Everyone wanted to know something about this weird group. The othering was immense. The interest, I entered the scene proper, probably in 2015. And I had, within the span of a year, given 3 interviews in the radio, 2 on television, and various things in newspapers. Because I was pushed to the front because they were having issues. They were being asked things. People were appearing, coming around. There was Larp everywhere. Not because people wanted to join, but because it was different. It was interesting. Was it positive? Yes. But in a slightly dangerous way. And these are clippings that span approximately 2.5 years between, I think, 7 or 8 different media outlets. So we are nerds in the public eye. News will travel fast. We are the flavor of the month. And we are not always a flavor of the month in a good way. And I was weaponized massively, because what I could do that, of course, perhaps a young person could not at this time, was step down and go according to theory, and just start hissing. Because they would get questions. There's one interview that is really inappropriate, where an 18-year-old individual is continually being asked, is this like when people pretend to be horses for sex reasons? And you're no. And asking a child that question, he wasn't even 18, he was 17 turning 18. This was the stuff that they had to face. And that was the weaponization of me, to put me in front of that and turn it onto others. Do you have any friends in real life? Why are you not wearing your costume to this interview? And I'm does a police officer wear his uniform everywhere? Or someone who plays basketball? So we had to fight this awkward stereotype, this attempt of the media to create something that perhaps wasn't good. And I called the national television at one point and complained, because they come to a man he's drinking, a young boy drinking from a bottle, and they're so you're just drinking? And he's yes. And they cut. The full clip goes yes, it's just water. So this is what we were fighting against. And imagine the Icelandic scene is always 15 years post what you are dealing with. So that's where we're standing. And then we entered a certain golden era. We had a lot of people playing. I would say the core group was about 30, 50 people were active in LARPing in Iceland, which is a lot. Iceland is tiny. Remember that. The capital area is 250,000 people, and that's most of the country. And there aren't that many. Workshops started calling in interest of teachers and the church. and other groups, and we would do that. Bachelor parties were actually really happy with us, and that's a good way to get money for a very small LARPing community. And urban fantasy started running. I think there were like 3 chronicle LARPs going on at the same time, and then little LARPs happening all around. But the Nordic LARP as you know it and the one-shots did not exist. The scene is still incredibly vulnerable because it's so small. All it takes, 3 people drop out. We have the same 5 people perhaps trying to organize most things. But organization is different. It's very flowy, even though it still mostly carries on poor Odder, who has been saddled with this because Baron went and did what the rest of us usually do and started creating little humans. And that really puts a dent in LARPing, as you all know. And LARP started taking space because the other parts of Nerddom really kept away from LARPing. Like we were allowed, but the other spaces of Nerddom in Iceland are very much oriented towards historical reenactment, specifically on the Commonwealth era of our time. Others will know it as the Viking Age. We do not like that word. And then things like wargaming and tabletop playing. And there was a clean cut between because it lingered, this idea of becoming too strange. I would never dare to do that. What would people think? And there I am standing in front of the university in full kit going like, there is no reason you shouldn't give lectures in leather armor. And I highly recommend doing that. But this small size has been something that is a problem with the Icelandic LARP because it is so vulnerable. The sphere started truly colliding with the Heimar and Heimingeimar Festival, which is a convention that accidentally happened. As I said, I am an event manager, and one day I get a phone call from a group called the 501st Legion. I don't know if you're, representing, I'm a TK. Yay! And they were upset because the 501st, who are Star Wars cosplayers / costume creators that work for an international charity, they were worried. There was no place for young Icelanders in any sort of nerddom to meet, to find their own people. And they were all like, we have all been there, being alone, thinking I'm the only one with these hobbies. Can we do something? Can we come to you? Can you do a day? And I went, yeah, I can do a day. I can definitely do a day. I can get like 2 or 3 groups together. So a full weekend and 5,000 visitors later, it was not a day, it was bigger. Then it grew in even further, and Heimar last year was 10,000 visitors. It is completely non-profit. There is no entry fee. It's just people who love what they're doing, and they decided to show it to everyone. We got a lot of kids. And of course, the LARPers were there. The LARPers were there. The reenactors were there. The Star Wars people were there. Historical tailors were there. Everyone, cosplayers. And they sort of realized that they liked each other. That maybe the spheres weren't as far away from each other as they originally thought. And bringing people together should be the core of everything we do. And it went positive. We positively piggybacked on other groups, and those groups on the LARPers. So there is this continual work in Iceland at the moment to create a positive nerddom movement. Icelanders are always represented in media as very easygoing and open for everything. This isn't true. We're very backwards. We're a little bit like the Icelandic sheep. We will stand there and we will look. And we'll wait for another sheep to go first, because God save us, there might be a single person in a cellar in a township in northern Iceland of 25 people who might think, maybe, on Tuesdays between 5 and 6, that this is lame, and then we're not going to do it. We're going to wait for someone else to do it, and then someone will say, this is cool, and then we can do it. So we're fighting that with this group, and now we're cool. And I have another convention to plan in 2 months, so we'll see how that works. But this positive piggybacking is what has been bringing LARPing to a new height and has also altered the scene quite a lot. The Icelandic LARP today is facing a massive challenge. It worked really well, the 30 to 50 people, because most of them were in their early 20s. They are still students. They are running their happy lives where they have all the time in the world to LARP, to do things, to plan stuff. They're older now. They are adults with adult responsibilities. They have bills to pay. They have houses to tend. They have work to go to. And when is a scene too small? Like, should I try to make a 3-day fantasy LARP buffer event knowing that there will be so few individuals and the weather is complicated? Venue pricing are it's hateful. Iceland is an expensive place. And let me put it like that. It is cheaper for me as an Icelander to go all the way to Poland, to a Larp like Convention of Thorns, where this is taken, than it is for me to hire a venue in Iceland that is not a castle, just a very regular 3-star hotel for a weekend. And then I'm just talking about the hotel. I'm not talking about the food or the Larp in general or anything else. Like, prices are insane. And of course, remember, there are 400,000 Icelanders. There are 3 million tourists. Yeah. So we're fighting that. We're fighting that in a very different way. When is it too much work? The age gap is getting more and more confusing. And because the scene is small, you will notice the 45-year-olds versus the 18-year-olds. They have very different play needs. And, well, the international scene is really calling people. It has a massive pool. As I said, there's a 50-man Larp in the UK next month, and this number is wrong. It's actually 20% of players. There will be 10 Icelanders in a 50-man Larp. That's slightly insane. So Icelanders are moving out. We have an older scene that is changing, and they are reaching out. They want to do more. But we are faced with the problems of Iceland, which is expensive. It does not have nice places in the forests. It has snow, lack of sunshine, an awful lot of rain, and insane prices. And then, well, there's the grind of everyday life. Are you willing to plan a full weekend Larp for 2 people? Maybe 3 of them show up and the rest of them forgot. It's becoming a very dangerous question. So in summary, unique surroundings, unique situations, and unique solutions. We are late bloomers, Icelanders usually are. We are always behind, but when we decide to do something, we do it really fast, and audacity alone. We just manage somehow. The scene is very Nordic. Icelanders that have gone international LARPing, they want to go to places where there is Nordic LARPing, where there is calibration, because that is their thing. I think the nicest thing I've ever heard about Icelandic LARPers was when I met an individual at an event, and the first thing she said is, I love when Icelanders LARP. You just go yes and you talk about everything. And I was very proud, because the first person who told these little LARPers they should talk about everything and yes and everything was me. I take a lot of pride in the little LARP community in Iceland, mostly because they were so brave, and they just did it, and they just went for it. But reality is catching up, and I do hope that the international scene will be something we will be a larger part of in the future. We had this high pretension from the media, and it really changed how people saw us, and it really changed how we interacted outwards. We had issues. People would be showing up, dropping off their kids. We're talking 12 and 13-year-old children, and this is an actual conversation. My child's therapist told me LARPing is good for their social skills. I'm leaving them here. And I'm like, no, you're not. We're not a babysitting club. And there's an 18-year-old hard limit. Like, this is a buffer. We're running around. We have weapons. You're not leaving your 12-year-old with us. This happened because of that. And people get careful when there's a reach out these days. The scene was highly active for approximately 7 years, but then reality kept catching up, as I mentioned to you. We have change of ages of life and experiences, but in short, yes, Icelandic LARPers do exist. They've existed for a long while. They just didn't need anyone until very recently when they started moving abroad. And I do believe the scene will get larger. I do believe that things will go better. They were incredible, and they can only become better. It just takes a little bit of time. I have faith in them, and we exist, and you just have to know where to look. Because Icelanders are like cockroaches. There's always one in every room. Like, you just don't know it. I mean, there's one here right now, right? Yeah. So, thank you. Any questions?
When did the Heimar convention start?
Heimar and Heimingeimar started in 2024. It was decided to do something in February. We got the great amount of money of 120,000 crowns Icelandic, which is like 1,200 Swedish, and ran with it. We built a spaceship. Like, literally, the 5 of us are insane, and they literally went dumpster diving, found an awful lot of wood, and built a fully functional, like, inside of a spaceship. Other questions? I'm going to start at the back and move on towards you. All right.
How's you talked about the age gap, or that people grow older. How is are there still kids coming into the scene, or because in Sweden at least we have a problem with LARPers just getting older and older, and we don't have much coming in from the younger generation.
There is an age gap, but I think it's different than here because the average age of LARPers in Iceland is slightly younger. We are getting kids in, but very, very few, mostly because there's a lack of very organized events for these children, because the LARP scene is organizing for itself. And then, of course, they will focus on an older group. There is a Danish man that has started doing like after-school LARP in Iceland. I do not know how it is going at this moment, but I've heard really positive things, but it is not like my speciality, so I'm not entirely sure how that is going, sadly. But I think the age gap is smaller. I think the oldest LARPer in Iceland, which is not me, by the way, is 44, and the youngest are just around 20. So it's not this wide spectrum that you have elsewhere. Who is next?
First of all, I'm thrilled that after 29 years, the 5th Nordic country is finally represented at KP.
This is your fault. I say with love.
Partially, but what can because like all of us struggle, of course, with our old enemy, reality, who is constantly trying to catch up to us all, but hasn't succeeded yet. So what can the international community do to support Icelandic LARPers?
I think at this very moment, and I've actually discussed this with Otter and others, the access to good playbooks for smaller scale Nordic LARPs that would take shorter time and do not have heavy venue requirements is something that we could truly need. Yeah. Yes, I know that all of you have things for me. I have a short list as well. But that is something that we would like to start moving towards because it's far more sustainable in Icelandic culture than the big things in general. So that is something that will be really helpful. And acknowledgement, really. That's all they need, because funny thing about Icelanders, you're familiar with Björk? Yeah. In Iceland, Björk was considered weird. People didn't really want to talk about that. She was weird. What's with this woman? She goes abroad, becomes incredibly famous because she is incredibly good. Then it's like, yeah, we knew all along that she was cool. It's the sheep mentality. The moment someone outside of Iceland finds something cool, it's okay. So just mention them. That's enough.
So if you're potentially an international LARP organizer who would love to see more Icelandic people at your LARPs, but you don't really know any Icelandic LARPers, you actually only met one, and she's in this room right now. How do you do to get in contact, to show off what we have, to invite and embrace you guys?
This is word of mouth. Send me your stuff. I'll get it onwards. I'll definitely get it onwards. I am the gateway drug, they say, for Icelandic LARPers. A LARP that has suffered me immensely is Giovanni the Last Supper. Like one Icelander signed up, and then 4 Icelanders followed the sign up, and now we have 10 Icelanders coming, and you're like, I just need to get rid of them again and find my own LARPs. I don't know. Yes.
I'm wondering what sort of genres you're playing, because my impression from your talk is that it's mostly like fantasy and sci-fi and things like that. But do you also do more like social realism or other sort of genres?
Fantasy and dark urban fantasy, modern. So Vampire the Masquerade and open urban fantasy games and fantasy buffers is what is played. No. There have been no social games, no hard social games or anything like that. Simply the scene wasn't in that particular space. I have been pushing them for a while. I've been like, have you heard about this LARP? But I also had to understand that they had to go through a certain journey and reach a place where they wanted to play that. So that's why I'm very open to things like that right now. But I do feel that LARP in Iceland is more oriented towards high drama and certain escapism than hard social realism. There is not a lot of people who want to play, we're all stuck in a bunker and going to die in 45 minutes. That is not the style of that particular group. But go we're all stuck in a bunker and we're going to die in 45 minutes and we're aliens. Then they would play it. You know what I mean? It needs this touch of ad absurdum for this particular group. More questions?
Do you wish to see?
It's only for the recording. You're not going to hear your voice.
Do you wish to see more international players in the Icelandic LARP community?
I don't think the Icelandic LARP scene as it stands right now is something that would suit people to travel to join, because we are working on essentially creating a system and a setting and a place where we can do these things and invite others. But in the future, I have high hopes that this will happen. And there are people in Iceland writing LARPs at the moment who want to base them in Iceland. One of them is actually a very fun semi-Cold War thing based on the Höfði meeting, if you know that, when Reagan and Gorbachev met in Iceland. So yeah, imagine spycraft slashed with the absurdity of the Archer show in a hotel where everyone's like playing super spies, but they can't do shit because there's a meeting going on. And we all know that this will go to hell in a handbasket. I personally enjoy LARPs that go to hell in a handbasket. That is my favorite way of playing. Everything should go to hell very fast, preferably in a funny way.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I have a design question. Can you the answer can yes or no? I mean, I don't know. Maybe there is a, regardless the genre or the style, do you think there is a design style or element that are similar regardless the LARP in the Icelandic scene? You see, like we do LARP a bit this way or this way.
Highly collaborative, immensely collaborative, because the scene is so small. It is less you have organizers and players and there's a set story. It's more like there is a story, but it is being interacted with this people who will just come and go like, I would like to do this, we would like to do that. And it's very open on that. The scene, of course, is very much marked by the fact that it is so small, so immensely small. And there is, strangely enough and wonderfully, even though this is a small group of mostly friends, nerdball has never been an issue in Icelandic LARPing, which is, to me, fantastic. You're familiar with the term nerdball. Nerdball is something that happens specifically in like larger buffer LARPs and fantasy LARPs that have a chronicle setting. And there's a group of friends, they've stayed there for a long time, they have powerful characters with lots of dots, we don't use that, and they have taken over. Like they can, in a way, control the game via their characters. They are sometimes linked into the organizers, even by marriage or by family relations, and it becomes a strata of out-of-character power affecting everything. And this never happened in Iceland because of this collaboration. I think Icelanders in general they embodify the yes and. They do not do no but, they just do yes and then figure it out along the way and fall down a mountain. So, design, I don't even know if I would use the word design over Icelandic LARP. It is very fugue state, go with the flow. Because Icelanders never prep anything. We have a national saying, "Þetta reddast." It means, it will figure itself out, somehow. Usually there is then, fires and screaming, but we fixed it, sorta. So yeah, that's our design choice. Just run and set stuff on fire.
First of all, thank you. I was in Iceland 3 years ago trying to locate LARPers. I did not succeed. Second of all, are there any official organizations that have been made due to this? Something that could be put on a Nordic fund application or anything?
It has not.
All right.
But, there's always a but. We have been looking into doing that, and probably the best group to get to co-sign on things like that would be the Heimar and Himmingeimar group. Heimateimið, Team Heimar, is spearheaded by me at this moment, and it has representative from every nerd group in Iceland. And the LARPers are a big part of that, and we do not differentiate. It's a little bit difficult for them to go into their own structure like that, but the Heimar team is always willing to facilitate these meetups and help you get something going. Just drop me a line.
All right, yeah, I'll be in touch.
Are there any other questions, or are we? Yeah.
Thank you. There are a couple of international LARP creators in this room who have run LARPs in the Sahara or a Polish castle or on a pirate ship in the Baltic Sea. So even though Iceland famously doesn't have many forests, you do have glaciers and volcanoes and lava fields and fjords, interesting dramatic landscapes. Do you think it would be possible, if price wasn't an issue, for an international LARP with like an Icelandic international team to happen in Iceland and target international players?
Yes and no. The level of complications would be immense. The problem with Icelandic landscape in general is that we say that in Australia, you know, the animals are going to kill you. In Iceland, it's nature. It's just going to outright murder you. Glaciers are very dramatic and beautiful. They're far away from places where we live. They're difficult to get to. You need specialized vehicles in many cases. And very little has to happen for a situation to go dangerous. I worked in tourism. I worked in creating many of the tours that are popular in Iceland right now, the multi-day tours. And one of the biggest things we have to do is calculate in the risks. And a lot of people do not understand the risks of Icelandic nature. I know that if you go and you look at films, there's a beautiful location called Dómadalur. You might know it from Thor: The Dark World. You know, there's black sands everywhere. This is a 6-hour drive in specialized vehicles, and there is nothing there. If something happens, there's a helicopter or death. There's nothing in between. Lava fields are really difficult to cross over. So all these beautiful, incredible landscapes have massive difficulties. You would always need to be close enough to the city and calculate that in. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it is a logistical challenge, but it can be done. There's one space specifically that I think would be very interesting for it, but then money comes in, because we would always be all the places that are close, that are easily reached, that have toilet facilities. We would be in competition with 3 million tourists. So it's the price thing. But I am very open to talking about this, because I think this could happen, but it would take a lot of work and a lot of thought.
Is there a sort of a performance art, performance installation, interactive theater scene in Reykjavik or Iceland?
Could you rephrase? I'm not sure I understand.
There's a black box scene, the black box LARPs, scene of black box LARPs in some of the Nordic countries that are sort of a crossover a little bit to performance installation and different kinds of performance art or performance theater. And I was wondering if there's any sort of scene for that in Reykjavik.
There is a singular proper black box in Iceland at the University of the Arts. They did an event a few years ago that was linked to LARPing and the theory of LARPing, but it was more towards theater theory. And it was a one event, and then nothing more really happened. People that came, they really enjoyed it. I do think there is a lot of possibilities in growing a scene like that. A dream of mine, because I see it as something that can be done in a black box of that size, is a LARP. I think it's called Collateral Emotions, the one that is based on Dogville, the setup on the floor. That is something that I would like to see done, because I can also imagine there's a group that is not LARPing in Iceland that would go for a LARP like that. And there is an option there. There is a possibility there. And but it would depend an awful lot on how it would be marketed. Icelanders are funny like that. They go like, oh, I could never LARP. Never. I did this incredible murder mystery thing, and I'm like, that's LARP. Like, I would never LARP. We just meet up in dresses and go dancing and pretend to be other people. That's LARP. And they're like, no, it's not. So there is this slight dissonance.
Yep, yeah. I'm thinking of it because I'm involved in it in Copenhagen, but also because it's sort of it's a super accessible way to LARP.
It is.
Because we play for 4 hours. You come, you leave. Often the aesthetics are wear black clothing.
I would love to talk more about something like that and get some things to do. I've actually myself never played a LARP that is that short. I am one of these junkies who are like, give me 40, 50 hours or give me death. Like, that's me. Other questions? Or are we done? Then I want to thank you all so much. And this was a very, very personal, non-peer-reviewed, unacademic intro to Icelandic LARPing as seen by me. Thank you.